Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand and you have been watching my videos on geography, environment and research methodology on my channel, The Geoecologist. So if you are new to this channel, consider subscribing our channel because we are going to complete each and every topic related to geography that is being studied for any examinations in our country. So in today's session on population geography, we are going to learn about the various theories related to migration. But before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and do share the videos with others as well. So now let's learn about the various theories of migration. Now first important thing to understand here is that migration is a very complex phenomena and also it is interdisciplinary phenomena. It means it involves the concept of more than one discipline. So apart from social, economic and political and environmental factors that are responsible for migration, remember it is also determined through the perception and behavior of individuals. That's why we say it is a complex phenomena. Now if you observe historically 19th and 20th century, many attempts to assign theoretical framework, that is to create several theories of migration, have been made by various scholars in different disciplines including science, sociology, economics and human geography. Now what we are going to do, we are going to learn few of them and understand how to categorize them, how to classify them and also learn what are the important theories. So first of all, let's understand that there is no single comprehensive theory of migration. It means we have to study more than one theory to understand the complex phenomena of migration, and also several attempts have been made from different times in order to understand and integrate the various concepts of migration. So economic theory, social theory, spatial analysis, that is purely geographical theories and behavioral theories, all these theories are the major pillars in the concept of migration. Now let's understand further more. So migration can broadly be divided on the basis of two analytical models. Now understand this very simple ways that macro model and micro analytical models are the two kinds of pillars, or we can say two major functions in the study of migrations, under which there are several theories which are listed. So first of all, if we understand the prominent models that involve the macro analysis or macro model analysis, as we say, the names of the theories are famous Ravenstein model, gravity model, Zipf's model, that is model of least effort, and Stouffer's model, that is intervening opportunity model as well. Now the next one, which is the microanalytical models. So microanalytical models, the most famous one is the Lee's model. So some of these models are also extension and upgradation of the basic models, which are the original models given by Ravenstein, Zipf, Lee, Todaro and several others. Now these scholars, when they made these particular theories, we can classify them on the basis of certain themes, right? So let's understand that what does this theory of migration and its classification look like. So sociological, economic, geographical and unifying theories, under which if you observe sociological theory, so intervening opportunities theory, Stouffer, push and pull factors, migrant networks, transnational social spaces, cumulative causation, institutional theory, world systems theory. Now these are certain theories where social aspect, sociology becomes more important, right? Then there are certain theories where economics become more important, so macroeconomics and microeconomics, right? So economic factors as the determinants of migration, that is what the theme of these theories are. So classical theories, neoclassical theories, Keynesian model, dual labor theory and several others. And then there are micro theories like neoclassical model by Todaro and several others, value expectancy, new economics of migration and several others. Then if you look into the spatial analysis, the geographical theories, you'll find out the interactions, right? So where gravity theory is very important, entropy theory, catastrophe theory and several others. Then you also have mobility transition models. And there are certain unifying theories of migration where you find systems approach being applied, multidisciplinary approach being applied. So this particular flow diagram, which gives us the entire gist of the theories of migration in one frame, is actually coming from Central European Forum for Migration Research. Now they have compiled these entire theories of migration into several heads or several branches, as you can see here. Now, it's important for us to look into these particular heads and branches. So first of all, we are going to look into the sociological theories. So first of all, important point in sociological theory, whenever we say, is the intervening opportunities theory by Stouffer. One of the most important theory, right? Which talks about what? It talks about the number of migratory events which is proportional to number of attracting opportunities, that is something like jobs or other opportunities available for migrants at destination. So this is directly proportional at destination, while it is inversely proportional to the number of such opportunities existing closer to the place of origin. So this direct relationship and inverse relationship is what Stouffer talked in his theory. Then further, if you observe, the notion of opportunities gave grounds for one more thing, that is push and pull factors. You must have heard about it, I believe. That is Lee's theory of 1966. That is also part of sociological theories. Then further, Taylor's theory of 1986, which is talking about pull factor, that is presence of interpersonal migrant networks. So it talks about the networking of the migrants, which basically means that people sharing kinship, friendship, right, on the basis of their origin and several other things. So this is where the next work was done in 1980s by Taylor, which is basically talking about the interpersonal relations between the migrants, right, and further influence on the waves of migration. So main role of networks is to do what? To diminish various costs. Remember, if somebody is migrating from one place to the other, and if there is a network of migrants who are collaborating with each other, so what happens? They help each other to diminish the costs of living at the destination, right? People coming from villages, they help each other in diminishing these various costs. For example, monetary, psychological and other things are also there, right? So it means what? It's like a strength building through networking. This was in 1986 given by Taylor. So if you look into these theories are basically talking about the social realm. They're talking about the social networks, right? That's why they are grouped as sociological theories. Now, further, if you observe, the idea of networks have been generalized by theory of transnational social spaces, right? And this transnational simply says from one nation to the other, right? It provides us a meso level of analytical framework. Macro, meso, micro. So this is a meso level of framework which was also used for international migration studies. That's important. So this was defined in year 2000 by Feist, and that is basically transnational social spaces consist of what? Combinations of social and symbolic ties. It means what? Combinations of social ties as well as symbolic ties. It means if somebody from India is going to settle in USA, they will create their own niche. They'll create their small India in USA, right? Through symbolism, through behavior, through representation of spaces, right? And they will like to interact with each other. So that's where transnational social spaces are created, right? So this is what it was talked in this theory. Now further, if you observe the institutional theory of migration by Massey, that was given in 1993, and several other scholars as well, they were concerning about one important thing, that is regular as well as irregular, that is both kinds of the aspects of population attributes. For example, active job, recruitment, counseling, these are the regular things that migrants do. But what are irregulars? That is human smuggling, trafficking. So it was concerning both the institutions, right? This is where the Douglas Massey and several other scholars worked in 1993 in the institutional theory of migration, where institutions of regular kind and irregular kind, both of them trigger or attract or determine the wave of migration, right? So another example of cross-cutting interdisciplinary theoretical approach in sociological approach is cumulative causation. With Massey and collaborating with Veblen and Myrdal, it was talking about certain topics that you must have heard already, which is migrant culture, brain drain, brain gain. These topics were popularized because of the sociological approach, sociological theme in migration. That's what we are going to understand. Now further, if you observe the geographical theories, it's talking about spatial analysis, locational analysis. That's where is geographical theories. So distance was the prime factor. Whenever it is about geography, it's about the source or origin, destination, and the distance in between them. So this is where we talk about the physical distances, the spaces, right? So geographical theories are basically talking about people, their flows, their distances and interactions between the regions. That's where geography lies in. So many gravitational theory that is of migration were propounded by Stewart, Ziff, Issard and several others based on the Newton's laws of gravity. And the most famous one was gravity model based on the Newton's law of gravitation, expanded by William Rayleigh in 1931. So what was this model about? It was a model talking about that number of people moving between places A and B, right? People moving between these two places, right, is equal to the population of A multiplied by population of B divided by the square of distance between them. Remember GMM by R square? Same formula was used here. So population of A multiplied by population of B by the distance squared. This is how it was to be calculated. Then further, if you observe, in addition to these theories, there were several other spatial theories also given, right? For example, the entropy system, the entropy theory given by Wilson, right? It was proposed to understand the disorderness of the regions and determination of migration. Right? So it was talking about entropy of the whole system of regions under this study. Then further, framework set by catastrophe and bifurcation theory was further propounded in 1980s. This was also talking about catastrophe at the place where from people keep migrating out. If there is some disaster happening at certain place, what will people do? They'll fly off that place. They'll leave that place. So these kind of catastrophe theory, bifurcation, geopolitical theories, these were majorly part of the geographical theories if you observe. Furthermore, if you observe, another geographical theory is the mobility transition, that is Zielinski model given in 1971, right, by Wilbur Zielinski, which was based on the concept of demographic transition. Remember, in models and theories in geography, we have learnt about the demographic transition model of Frank Notteston. So it was based on this theory, right? So these are certain geographical theories. Then further we see unifying theories, the integration theories, right? For example, the systems theory called migration systems theory by Kritz and several others, it was given, and further it distinguishes various factors and their interplay in the system, right? So it says that in such a dynamic system, migration is the continuous interplay, interaction between historical, economic, cultural, political factors and several others, right? At various levels, at various scales, micro level, macro level and several others. So what we understand is the unifying perspectives talk about, let's understand the interplay, the interaction of various components. That's where the systems theory come into the picture when we say unifying perspective. So now when we have learnt about all these aspects, let's learn in detail about some of these theories from various aspects. So one of the most famous theory that we understand is the Ravenstein's theory, right? Ravenstein law of migration, which was one of the earliest work. In 1880s it was done. So these are the 9 points, if you can observe here, from the work of Ernst Georg Ravenstein, who was basically a German English geographer and cartographer. He gave these 9 propositions and said that these are important things to consider when it's about the laws of migration. So every migration flow generates a return or a counter migration. So majority of migrants who move are at a shorter distance. So this was 1880s. Remember, transport revolution did not happen in that way. So what happened? Shorter migration were prevalent. Migrants who move longer distances tend to choose major sources of economic activity. Urban residents are often less migratory than the rural, right? Families are less likely to make international moves than young adults. This was the law. Then most migrants are adults. This was the observation. Large towns grew by migration rather than natural population growth. More long distance migrants were male and more long distance migrants were adult individuals rather than families with children. These are the 9 important propositions as known as Ravenstein laws of migration, right? So further, if you observe in the Ravenstein law of migration, one very interesting thing that was given was the theory of step migration. It means migration happens stepwise, right? So how can we understand this? Through this particular diagram. So this is the step 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, right? And people migrate from a small farm where you have no schools, no shops, no employment other than farm activity to the nearest village. Then primary schools are there, few shops are there, few employment, little opportunities are there. So from village they move to the nearest town, and where you have limited schools, shops and employment opportunities. From small town they move to a city where you have all levels of education, opportunities of job and shopping and everything else. And from this city they move to the biggest city in the region, that is also called primate city, where all levels of education, shopping, job, entertainment, everything is available. It means diversified economy is there. So this is coming from Ravenstein law of migration and the theory of step migration. That's important to learn. Further, if you observe, this is basically the stages which we are talking here, steps and stages. So it was basically a stage-wise migration rather than only step-wise. That's important. Now, when we look into the next theory that we already talked here was Lee's theory. Now, Lee's theory is very interesting theory. Why is it interesting? Because it talks about these four categories. One is the factor associated with areas of origin, one in areas of destination, one in between the origin and destination, which is intervening obstacles, and the personal factors. So what did Lee say? He conceptualized the factors associated with this decision of a migrant, that how do we decide to migrate on the basis of these factors, right? To understand this, two important things are there in Lee's theory. One is the volume of migration and one is the stream of migration. Remember, volume of migration is supposed to be proportional to the diversity of the area. A high degree of diversity, that is spatial diversity, racial diversity, ethnic diversity, results in higher migration. This was the relationship given by Lee. And stream of migration is basically the wave of migration in a particular direction, right? It is high if the major factors that contributes towards migration are push factors. It means what? If push factors are dominating more, so stream of migration will be more, right? So this was given. And further, if you observe, this was the diagrammatic explanation given by Lee, that this is the origin. In between, you have intervening obstacles, and then there is a destination. So these obstacles are something which a person from origin has to overcome in order to travel to the destination, right? For example, if I take a decision to move abroad or go somewhere else, I have to come across these obstacles. For example, what kind of obstacles? Maybe economic obstacles, political obstacles, environmental or social obstacles, financial costs, river, lake, mountain, in terms of the transportation, in terms of climatic factors, health, cultural factors, language factors. All these factors could be an obstacle for a person who is choosing on to whether to migrate or not to migrate. So this was important as the four important factors. So factors at destination, factors at origin, in between obstacles, and also the personal factors. This is how he understood the migration theory, right? Then further, if you observe the Stouffer's theory, as we saw, so intervening opportunity model. So Stouffer's theory was very important because it gave this directly proportional and inversely proportional relationship, as we saw in the grouping of sociological theories, right? And further, he advocated the competing migrant model that was basically on the social level, social skills, right? So what it talked was that if one person is moving to a particular distance, which is directly proportional to the number of opportunities at the destination. It means if there are more opportunities at destination, more people would love to go. So you can see the example of the metropolis or big cities in India itself, in the world itself, where more people every day land for looking for the opportunities. So this is where we say the sociological theory, in which Stouffer's theory is one of the most important theory. And remember, Samuel Andrew Stouffer was a sociologist at University of Chicago and Harvard University. He was a professor who also not just talked about these theories, but also propounded one interesting thing in geography and sociological studies was survey research techniques. Right? This is one important contribution as well of Stouffer. Now further, if you observe the Todaro's model, when we say economic models, right? So economic factors that are most influential among push and pull factors, right? So he talked about that, right? And individual migrants necessarily weigh their economic costs versus benefits. So basically CBA is the factor that he talked about. Cost benefit analysis is what we say is the Todaro's model of 1971. And apart from this, the inverse distance law given by Ziff. So if you remember this gentleman, Ziff's model of migration, it talks about what? Volume of migration decreases with distance from origin resulting from the obstacle between the place of origin and that of the new destination. This was in 1946, it was given, right? So what you observe, he defined this obstacle as simple inverse function of the distance. Right? So distance and these particular obstacles are inversely related, and he gave the example of West African migration, which had difficulties. If West African people wanted to go to Europe or United States, they had these obstacles which were mostly political obstacles. Right? So they did not go there. So where did they go? They went to South Africa instead, rather than going to Europe or going to Americas. So this was given. right? And also, unlike gravity model, Zipf's model failed to map the direction of migration flow. It did not say which direction they would move, or further analysis was not given. So this is also one of the criticisms of Zipf's model. Then further, the Zielinski mobility transition model, the typical geographical model that we observed by Wilbur Zielinski. If you observe, in 1971 he attempted the integration of migration and demographic transition model given by Northeastern in 1945. So he talked about 4 variable scales. Remember geography, space, time and scale. So international, regional, rural, urban and urban rural. These 4 important scales of migration was talked about in his model, that is we say Zielinski model of mobility transition, right? So first stage was pre-modern traditional society, where what was important, that onset of urbanization was still to come. It was a primitive society, nomadism was there. So very little migration in terms of the long distance migration, but more of the migration was just for the search of food, right? Then in the second stage he says early transitional society, where during stage 2 a massive movement from countryside to cities occurs. Right now diversification happens, so urban rural diversification happens, right? Community experiences the process of modernization, and then there is an increase of migration. Then further late transitional stage, where you see that cities become bigger and more rural to urban migration, and further urban to rural migration in the late phase starts to happen. Then further, if you observe the stage 4, which is advanced society. So here, when the advanced society happen in the stage 4, movement from countryside to the city continues, but further reduced in absolute and relative terms, as a large increase in urban to suburban migration also happens. It means people from congested urban areas starts moving out of the congested city, settling in the suburbs. So development of suburbia is the important thing here. And then is the 5th stage, which is the future super advanced society. That is basically nearly all residential migration may be of interurban or intra-urban, because eventually rural will be disqualified, only urban will be there. So intra-urban or interurban will be only left. That is what he talked about. So this is what the transition model is, from primitive stages to the super ultra modern advanced society, right? And if you observe, this is carefully looking at the demographic transition as well, different stages of demography, so different stages of migration alongside. This is Zielinski model, right? And further, if you observe in Zielinski model, these graphical analysis were given for international movement in every stage. What will happen, right? Regional movements in every stage, how it transits, then rural to urban movements and urban to urban movements. So according to the stages, if you observe of the demography, this is what is given in this model. So according to Zielinski model, one important thing to be noted out here is international and regional migration represents highest level after expanding early phase. This is where they lie, these 2 positions here, right? And significance of this mobility transition model is basically what? This helps us to understand the entire range of migratory movements in global and international levels, which is completely dependent upon the levels of economic development, demographic transition and economic diversification. Right? So these are the points to remember. So you can observe all the migration theories and understand what are the important points under each of these theories, why were they important, and to understand the entire migration process. All these theories are significant and they can be grouped, as we learned, in different themes like sociological, economic theories, geographical theories, integrated theories, right? So as you want, you can learn it. That is what we need to learn in these theories of migration. So now, when we have discussed in details the various theories of migration, in the sessions to come, we'll be talking more on different other aspects of population geography. So stay tuned, stay safe, keep watching and learning, and don't forget to share the videos and the channel, and also do subscribe to our channel. So all the best wishes, take care.